Everyone's seen loudmouth bullies who think a public scene makes them powerful. But today, inside a crowded bank, one of them made the worst mistake of his life. He grabbed a hose meant for cleaning equipment and blasted a little girl and her father right in the face, laughing like it was a joke. But the second the water hit that man's tie and robe, the room fell silent, because he wasn't just a single dad trying to get his errands done. He was the judge presiding over the bully's case. And in a matter of minutes, the bully would discover just how bad he'd messed up. But before we continue, I just want to take a quick moment to say thank you for being here with us. Your support means more than you know. And if you're enjoying these emotional, real-life style stories, make sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and leave a like. It truly helps the channel grow and reach more amazing viewers like you. Alright, let's get back to the story. The lobby of Crescent Valley Bank smelled faintly of lemon disinfectant and cold air drifting in each time the front doors opened. It was early morning, too early for most customers, but not for Jason Hale. He stepped inside wearing dark jeans, a worn gray hoodie, and a utility jacket that looked like it had survived more winters than he cared to admit. In his left hand, he held a thick folder of paperwork. In his right, the gentle grip of a small, trembling hand. "Papa, how long will this take?" his daughter Lily asked, her voice fragile with exhaustion. She was 8 years old, too young for the stress she'd learned to carry, and far too young to be up at 6:30 a.m. inside a cold bank lobby. Her hair was still damp from the rushed morning shower, clinging to her cheeks, but she tried to smile anyway. Jason squeezed her hand softly. "Not long, sweetheart. We're just dropping off these forms and then we'll go get pancakes. Promise." She nodded, trusting him completely, as she always did. Jason had done everything to protect her since her mother passed away 3 years earlier, and this morning's appointment was just one more responsibility he had to shoulder, sorting out a disputed transaction and finalizing paperwork that would help secure the last of her mother's inheritance. Money they truly needed. But today, the universe had prepared a storm he never saw coming. The bank technically opened at 8:00 a.m. But right now, at 6:55, the doors were unlocked for one reason only: maintenance cleaning. Once a week, the manager's nephew Tanner came in before opening hours to help. At least that's what he claimed. Really, he used these mornings as his playground, because when no customers were around, Tanner felt powerful, untouchable, free to do whatever he wanted while the peasants who actually worked here followed his whims. The real maintenance worker, Manny, was the quiet type, mid-50s, always polite. He pushed a mop bucket around with a slow limp, doing his job quietly, peacefully. But this morning, Manny wasn't alone. Tanner strutted in wearing tight jeans, a smug grin, and a high-pressure hose used for floor rinsing before disinfectant was applied. It wasn't a normal tool for a bank, but Tanner insisted on using it because it made him feel like he was doing some real cleaning work. Translation: it was a toy, another way to show power. The employees hated it, but he was the manager's nephew. So no one said a word. And when Jason walked inside with Lily, Tanner spotted them instantly. Tanner planted a hand on his hip, hose hanging carelessly from the other. Hey," he snapped. "Did you not read the sign? We're not open yet." Jason remained calm, his voice level. "Your manager told me to come before hours. I have an appointment at 7. "Yeah, well, he's not here yet," Tanner said, clearly irritated that anyone would dare interrupt his morning performance. Jason nodded calmly and guided Lily toward the sitting area. "We'll just wait over here. Won't bother anyone." That should have been the end of it. But Tanner didn't like being ignored. He smirked, rolled his shoulders, and approached Manny. "Watch this," he muttered under his breath. Manny paused his mopping and frowned. "Tanner, just leave them be. They're not hurting nobody." Tanner scoffed. "Relax, I'm just cleaning. Isn't that what you do?" Then, with a flick of his wrist, he turned on the hose. A narrow jet of water shot onto the floor, just a few feet from Jason's boots. Enough to splash, enough to intimidate, enough to show dominance. Jason stared down at the water, then lifted his eyes to Tanner. No anger, no raised voice, Just a steady, quiet displeasure. Tanner, Jason said calmly, I'm standing here with my daughter. Please be careful. Manny stepped in immediately. Tanner, cut it out before you get us both in trouble. But Tanner waved him off. Come on, man, I'm cleaning. What do you want from me? He didn't stop. He didn't apologize. Instead, he grinned wider, enjoying the way Lily scooted behind her father. Jason knelt and whispered to his daughter, It's okay, he's just fooling around. But Tanner heard that, and it made him furious. Fooling around. Oh, he'd show them. Jason turned slightly to grab Lily's fallen mitten from the floor. And Tanner saw his opportunity. He lifted the hose, adjusted the nozzle, and blasted a full-power jet of freezing, high-pressure water straight at Jason's chest. The impact was instant and brutal, a thick slap of cold force. Jason stumbled back a step, arms instinctively wrapping around Lily. She cried out, shocked and terrified. Gasps erupted across the lobby. Manny dropped his mop. A retired couple waiting near the entrance covered their mouths. The assistant teller froze behind the counter. Everyone saw it. Everyone. Except Tanner, who started laughing. Oh, come on, he shouted. It was a joke. He walked right into it. Jason didn't yell. He didn't lunge. He didn't show the rage boiling under his skin. He simply placed a hand gently on Lily's hair and checked her face for any sign of hurt. You okay, sweetheart? She got my shirt wet, she whimpered. Jason's jaw tightened. Around them, whispers began. Is he serious? That poor little girl's. Someone get the manager. He could have blinded them. Manny stormed toward Tanner, face red with anger. Tanner, enough. Tanner rolled his eyes, restarting the stream and lazily spraying the floor. I'm cleaning, isn't that my job? What's the big deal? But Jason stepped forward, slowly, controlled, dripping wet, and placed one hand on the hose. Tanner froze. Jason never raised his voice. He didn't need to. Put the hose down, he said quietly. You're scaring my daughter. Something in Jason's tone, that chilling calmness, made the entire lobby go silent. But Tanner, insecure and always desperate to prove himself, couldn't back down. He yanked the hose away and sneered. Or what, you gonna cry, you gonna run to the manager, you're just some broke single dad with a beat-up jacket and no life. What are you gonna do? Jason stared at him, expression unreadable. Then the front doors swung open. And everything changed. Mr. Carver, the bank manager, marched inside balancing a tray of coffees. His eyes widened the moment he saw the puddles, the terrified customers, and Jason standing soaked with his trembling daughter. Tanner, what in God's name? Oh, relax, Uncle Rick, Tanner said casually. He stood where he shouldn't. Mr. Carver's face went pale. Tanner, did you spray a customer with that? It was an accident, Tanner lied, shrugging. The guy freaked out over nothing. Jason tilted his head slightly. Is that your final answer? Tanner scoffed. Yeah, what are you gonna do, sue me? You can't even afford. Stop talking, Mr. Carver snapped. He rushed to Jason. Sir Jason, I'm so sorry. Please, let's get you towels, hot cocoa for your daughter. Jason gently shook his head. No need for all that, we'll be fine. Mr. Carver exhaled, embarrassed and furious. Tanner, give me the hose now. But Tanner didn't move. He looked between Jason and his uncle, and somehow managed to make the worst decision possible. He smirked. Well, maybe he shouldn't have come here like this, he muttered. He looks like some homeless nobody anyway. Gasps again. Someone whispered, he did not just say that. Jason closed his eyes for a moment. And Manny, the quiet janitor, whispered to the person beside him. He messed with the wrong man. At exactly that moment, two men in suits entered the bank. They spotted Jason immediately and hurried over. Judge Hale. We're so sorry we're late. Tanner's smug smile vanished. Judge. Jason simply nodded to the two attorneys. The room went painfully still. Customers stared. Employees froze. Tanner turned pale. His hand loosened on the hose. You said your name was Jason, he stammered. Jason looked at him calmly. Yes, Jason Hale, as in the presiding judge on 3 cases currently under review. Mr. Carver rubbed his temples. Oh dear God. Jason knelt beside Lily and wrapped her coat around her shoulders. Then he looked up at Tanner, not angry, but disappointed in a way that hit deeper than any punch. You sprayed me, he said quietly. You terrified my daughter. You insulted me. You insulted everyone who works for a living. Tanner swallowed hard. And you did it, Jason continued, because you assumed I was beneath you. The entire lobby held its breath. Jason stood, straightened his wet jacket, and handed his folder to Mr. Carver. We'll finish the legal paperwork in your office, he said calmly. And as for your nephew, he turned to Tanner, and his voice became ice. We'll discuss his part in my courtroom. Tanner's knees went weak. Mr. Carver looked mortified. Judge Hale, sir, please. Jason raised a hand politely. No, not another word. The judge turned and walked toward the office with Lily in his arms, leaving behind stunned customers, a trembling bully, and the realization that Tanner had just hosed the one man who could legally reshape his entire future. And he had no idea. The private office door clicked shut behind Jason Hale and his daughter. Lily curled into his lap on the couch as he handed her a warm mug of cocoa. The bank manager practically sprinted to get her. You doing okay, sweetheart? He asked softly. She nodded, though her eyes were still glossy from the shock. It was so loud and cold, and he looked really mean. Jason pressed a gentle kiss onto her forehead. I know, but you're safe now, I promise. Mr. Carver stood near the doorway, shoulders rounded in humiliation, wringing his hands as if trying to squeeze excuses out of them. Judge Hale, I don't know how to express how sorry I am, Tanner. Jason cut him off, not unkindly. You don't need to apologize again. Your reaction out there spoke clearly. Mr. Carver nodded reluctantly, though guilt still sat on his shoulders like a sack of stones. Jason finished signing the papers, returned the folder to the manager, and prepared to leave with Lily. But before they could step out, Manny, the janitor, slipped inside. He held 2 towels, a small one for Lily and a larger one for Jason. His hands were shaking. Yes, sir, Judge Hale, I know you don't need anything from a guy like me, but here. Jason took the towels with a grateful nod. Thank you, Manny. Manny swallowed thickly. I tried to stop him, I swear I. You did, Jason said calmly. And I saw it. The old janitor's eyes softened, relief washing over him. Jason gathered Lily's coat and stood. Let's go, sweetheart. He held the door open for Manny. Politeness, respect. 2 things Tanner never learned. And just outside in the lobby, Tanner stood frozen like a child seeing the school principal march in. Colorless, shaking. His cockiness had evaporated so fast it left a vacuum where his smirk used to be. Jason didn't stop when he passed him. Didn't glare. Didn't lecture. He simply walked by, Lily clinging to his jacket. And that silence hit Tanner harder than any punch. By lunchtime, someone leaked what happened. By evening, half the local community had seen grainy phone footage customers recorded of the aftermath. Jason Hale standing drenched, Lily in his arms, and Tanner still holding the hose like a guilty toddler. By the next morning, Tanner couldn't escape it. Meme of the day. Man sprays a judge, immediately regrets it. Hashtag trending. Hosed the wrong dad. Teen comment of the week. Bro speedrun, worst mistake of your life. Tanner tried hiding at home, but that didn't work because Mr. Carver wasn't hiding. His uncle was livid. You sprayed a federal judge. Uncle Rick, it wasn't. And you insulted his daughter, in public. It was just a joke. A joke, Tanner, you're about to become a case study in what not to do. Mr. Carver banned him from the bank indefinitely, but that didn't fix the real problem. Judge Hale was presiding over Tanner's upcoming assault and vandalism hearing. And now Tanner had personally committed an act of aggression that would go straight into the pre-sentencing report. He couldn't sleep. Couldn't eat. Every time he blinked, he saw Jason's expression. Not angry, not hot-tempered, just cold, controlled, disappointed. Which was worse? Much, much worse. 2 weeks later, Tanner stood outside courtroom 3B, sweating through his dress shirt, his leg bouncing like it had an electric current running through it. "Just breathe," Mr. Carver whispered, trying to calm him before everything exploded. Tanner swallowed hard. What if he throws the book at me? What if he hates me? What if? "He's a judge," Mr. Carver said sharply. "He doesn't take things personally." But Tanner wasn't so sure. Judge Hale was already inside, flipping through files. Tanner recognized the same calm expression he'd seen at the bank. And he prayed for the first time in his entitled life that he wouldn't be destroyed. Jason entered the courtroom, robe flowing behind him, posture straight, expression firm. He sat, lifted the file, and tapped his gavel once. Case number 4821, State versus Tanner Carver. Tanner felt his chest tighten. Jason scanned the file slowly, meticulously, then looked up. "The defendant is present." Tanner squeaked out. "Yes, Your Honor." Jason nodded. "Very well." Silence stretched out, heavy and suffocating. Jason began reading from the file, his tone flat and official, not emotional. 1 count of vandalism, 1 count of disorderly conduct, 1 count of aggravated harassment. Each word struck Tanner like a hammer. His attorney stepped up. "Your Honor, my client is deeply remorseful and has prepared a sworn statement of apology." Jason raised a hand. "I am aware of the statement. We'll get to that shortly." The lawyer fell silent. Jason adjusted his glasses, an intimidatingly calm gesture, and continued. "Before I determine sentencing, Mr. Carver, I need to ask you something." Tanner's voice trembled. "Why, yes, Your Honor." Jason leaned forward slightly. "Why do you hurt people?" The room grew so quiet someone could hear the courthouse clock ticking in the hallway. Tanner blinked. I don't hurt people." Jason raised an eyebrow. "No, the incident at Crescent Valley Bank would suggest otherwise." The blood drained from Tanner's face. There it was. The moment he dreaded. Jason set the file down. "You sprayed a father and his young daughter with a maintenance hose. Witnesses testified you laughed afterward." "Your Honor, please," Tanner's attorney interjected. "That was outside the court case." Jason didn't look at him. "It speaks to character," he said. Then he shifted his gaze back to Tanner. "Why do you hurt people?" This time the question was not procedural. It was personal. A demand for truth. Tanner's mouth opened, then closed. He didn't know how to answer. Because no one had ever asked him that before. They'd always protected him. Covered for him. Excused him. But Jason Hale didn't do excuses. Finally, Tanner muttered, I don't know." Jason nodded once, like he expected that answer. "You act out of entitlement," Jason said. "A belief that you are above others, that consequences are for lesser men." He leaned back in his chair. "Unfortunately for you, consequences are my jurisdiction." Tanner's knees almost buckled. His attorney whispered urgently, "Apology now." Tanner swallowed and lifted a trembling page. "Your Honor, I am very sorry for my behavior. I was careless and disrespectful and—" Jason raised a hand again. "You can stop." Tanner froze. Jason's voice softened just barely. "Apologies are words, and words mean nothing without change." A long silence followed. Then Jason turned to the clerk. "I will now issue sentencing." Tanner's heart stopped. Jason removed his glasses and folded his hands. "The defendant, Tanner Carver, will receive 6 months probation, 80 hours of community service, mandatory anger management therapy, a $2,000 fine, and—" Tanner's breath hitched. Jason continued, "a 6-month employment suspension from Crescent Valley Bank, effective immediately." His uncle let out a pained groan. "And finally," Jason added, The defendant will write a full letter of apology to the minor child affected by his actions. A gasp rippled through the courtroom. The child. Lily. Tanner shook a letter to her. Yes, Jason said. To the little girl you frightened. She deserves to see responsibility in action. That was the moment Tanner realized something. Jason hadn't destroyed him. He could have. Everyone expected him to. But instead, Jason handed him responsibility. Growth. A chance to change. Tanner's voice cracked. Why are you being fair to me? Jason met his eyes with quiet weight. Because my daughter was watching. The room froze. Jason continued. And I need her to grow up believing that justice isn't revenge. It's accountability. Tanner lowered his head, ashamed for the first time in his life. Jason lifted the gavel. Sentencing is final, court dismissed. Bang! Everything was over. And yet everything was just beginning. As the courtroom emptied, Tanner approached cautiously like a man approaching the edge of a cliff. Judge Hale. Jason turned, Lily standing beside him holding his hand. Tanner's voice shook. I'm sorry for real. Jason studied him for a long moment. Then he nodded. Good, now prove it. No anger. No vengeance. Just truth. Tanner nodded slowly, like a man defeated, but maybe finally ready to learn. Jason took Lily's hand and walked toward the courthouse doors. Sunlight streamed in, warming the marble floor. Papa, Lily whispered. Are you okay now? Jason smiled gently. I'm perfect. She leaned into him, trusting completely. And as they stepped outside, into a world where justice sometimes looked like punishment, sometimes like mercy, but always like truth, Jason knew one thing for certain. His daughter had seen what real strength looked like. Not in fists, not in shouting, but in choosing the higher path, even when the lower one was easier. And that was the lesson that would stay with her for life.